Hi, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. I'm May, and this is going to be my January wrap up. That sounds crazy to say. How are we in January? If you are new here, how I do it is that I try to record every time I finish a book. Sometimes I miss a few days, sometimes I miss a lot of days, but the general gist is that I try to record after I finish each book. I'll give a in-depth review and discussion around each book as much as I possibly can. I find it easier to rant about books that I don't like. So you ever hear me say that book's good and I move along, it's because I have nothing else to say. And this is a special episode where it is currently Mooing with Friends Part 3, where I am reading all the books that my friend Paris gave me for her birthday month. And yes, a lot of romance this month, so be prepared. I should be reading about a total of 12 to 14 books, and yeah, let's just jump in. I have already finished my first book of the month, and I got Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I actually do have a physical copy from my library right here. I love this. I did not give it a 5-star, which I would have loved to have given it a 5-star. I only had one pretty big complaint. I thought the writing was a bit immature. They said a lot of weird things that I would not have expected a fully grown adult to say. Like at one point, she calls him like a twat waffle or a fuck waffle. I just thought that was a little immature for like 20 some year olds. I think they're even like late 20s, honestly. Um, so as much as I enjoyed this, I am not giving it 5 stars. I'm giving it a 4-star. What is Bride about? Bride is about these vampires and werewolves. They're called females, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to call them by their basic act names because do you really care about their specific names? But it is following vampires and werewolves who are trying to form some kind of treaty or some kind of like almost like a pyro dynamic to like not slaughter each other. So they have what's called collaterals, where someone is being sent to live there and then they send someone back, and that's also with the humans. And in this book, they decide to make it be a bride. So they're like, hey, vampire, you're going to go marry this werewolf and kind of act like a collateral, but like as his wife. And you're going to live with him for 1 year to ensure peace. And then after the year, you can go do whatever you want. But for that 1 year, if he slaughters you, we get to kill everyone. And if you slaughter him, he gets to kill all of us. And it's just like a way of kind of like sanctifying peace between peace, peace, peace in quotation marks around the different sex of the sex sectors is what I meant to say, not sex. The different sectors of this society. And the main character, the point of view that we get, she is a vampire. She has been sent away for most of her life. Like she was the actual human collateral. So she was sent, I think, like 8 years old and didn't return until she was 18. She then chose to live among humans because she found it was easier. She didn't feel like she really belonged with the vampires after living so far away from them for so long. So this book is mostly about her going to spend time with her werewolf husband, who is hot as shit. And there is knotting. This is a megaverse, which I know is not everyone's things. It's my thing. I love knotting. I love a megaverse. So this being my first ever Ali Hazelwood book was actually perfect because it is the one that I expect to like the most. So that was how I was going into that book. That's the expectations that I had. And I will definitely say that it gave exactly what I expected. Like the knotting was there, the smut was there, the tension. Yeah, the enemies to lovers, that was so great. The mating was all great. The writing where it failed me a little bit. The immature writing for some people that were supposed to be like 25. I think the guy's even in his 30s. It did not feel like that. It felt like things that people in middle school would say, and that's like my only complaint for this book. I will be reading the second book, but if you don't know, I don't really love romances. I might mention that a couple times in this video just to assert that. So this getting a 4-star is amazing. A typical contemporary romance author getting a 4-star from me is very rare. I have very high expectations when it comes to romance, and I get very pissed off or very icked or cringed very, very easily when it comes to contemporary romance. So the fact that I was able to finish this and then also give it 4 stars is very impressive on its own. Much, much, much loved. Much loved. And I'm excited to read the second one, and I hope I enjoy it as much as I did this one. And then, funny enough, I did already read the second book. I'm just going to jump into that one. And I'm using a wheel to spin, and I'm not recording it because I'm just going to tell you. And if you don't believe me, you don't believe me. But the second book I got was actually another Ali Hazelwood book, and I got Love Hypothesis. I was very scared. I don't have a physical book of this, so I read it on my Kindle. I was very scared to go into this because Love Hypothesis is like her more basic woman in STEM romance, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking hate this. I'm gonna fucking hate this. I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it a lot more near the end. Like the whole situation that happens towards the end of the book, I end up really relating to, really getting sucked into, and I'm giving it 4 stars. I have one complaint. Why the hell was he trying to eat her boob? Like, why in that one scene was he trying to literally eat her boob like a melon? Like, why was the entire thing in his mouth? That was weird. I did not like that. I also believe this is based off of Rilo, the Star Wars ship, which I don't have a problem with. I did not know that going into it, though. I didn't get told that until after I had practically finished it. That didn't bother me, though. It was really good. So if you don't know what Love Hypothesis is, it is starring, can't remember their names. Oh my god, what are their names? Adam. This character. This is the reason. This is the problem with reading books. I forget characters' names very quickly. Adam and Olive. It's Adam and Olive. So this is starring like it's a movie, but this is featuring Adam and Olive. Olive is a graduate student who is trying to get their graduate degree and some kind of science. I can't remember because that's a lot of technical terms. And Adam is like the professor there, like the graduate professor there, who has been there for like 6 years, who is super smart, super great, super hot, but he's mean. He is grouchy, he is harsh, he doesn't hold back when it comes back to feedback, so he does not have a very good reputation among the students. A lot of students hate him. Well, Olive suspects that she's asexual. So one of her friends sets her up to date someone, and she's not really feeling it. But then she finds out another one of her friends is feeling it. Like, she does like that guy, but she won't date the guy because Olive was dating him. So she creates this entire scheme where she's gonna make her friend think that she's moved on by kissing someone random in the science hall. So she goes to the science hall when she sees her friend there, and she just grabs someone and kisses them. Well, she does ask for permission. She's like, hey, can I kiss you? But it's like dark. They don't really see each other. And the guy's like, and she does it. And the guy she ends up kissing is the grouchy professor. So he's like, what the hell? And she's like trying to explain the whole thing to him, and he agrees to fake date her because like he has a lot of funding being withheld from him because they think that he's a flight risk. They think he might leave. And he's like, this actually benefits both of us. So like, I can date you to get my funding, and you can date me to make your friend think that you were like, she doesn't even need to move along because she never even liked the guy, but she needs to make her friend see that she's moved along. So they like essentially fake date in their science department for like their own reasons. And there ends up being this whole plot line near the end where this one professor is being really creepy and douchey, and she's like, no one's gonna believe me. And then there's like a whole thing with Adam not being a douchebag, grouchy anymore, and he's actually really sweet and supportive and caring of her. And I loved how that ended up being dealt with, and that really made me cry. I actually cried. So I'm giving it 4 stars. The whole boob thing is why I'm not giving it 5 stars. Like, the writing was better in this. Like, I'm rating them the same, but like, I do like Bride more. Like, they're both getting 4 stars, but Bride is still better to me. The writing was a lot more mature. Like, it definitely fit what like graduate students or graduate professors would be saying. I didn't have any problem with that. It was like the weird putting his whole boob in his mouth thing that really just gave me the ick personally. But she is asexual, so I love the asexual representation that happens within the book and how she's like talking about it and discovering herself. I believe she is demisexual. She says that like she can't have sex with someone unless she knows them very well over long periods of time, and I understand that because I feel the exact same way. And I am glad that I read this. And yes, I do have 2 other Ali Hazelwood books on my TBR, and I'm hoping not to get them next, because if I keep reading Ali Hazelwood back to back, I'm going to get burnt out. So hopefully the next book is not Ali Hazelwood. I don't know what the next book is because I only read these 2 back to back, and I'm just like catching you up like on the 5th of January because I've read both of them. So yeah, it's kind of a couple days into the new year, but you know, it was busy. It was busy getting into the new year. I was sick and tired and getting over a little bit of a cold, and yes, but hopefully I do record after every book going forward. So to summarize, I gave Bride by Ali Hazelwood a 4-star, and Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood also a 4-star. And yes, this is my shindig for now. Hi, it is January 9th, and I'm here to talk about the book and movie for people we meet on vacation. I have a lot of thoughts about this, so you might want to go get a thing of popcorn or a drink and lock the fuck in with me because I cannot believe the words are about to come out of my mouth, but I gave this a 5 star. If you're new to my channel, you may not know this, but I'm an Emily Henry hater. Hater. I read 2 of her books, hated them, swore her off, and then the fictional love of my life, Tom Blythe, got casted to be Alex in People We Meet in Vacation. And I was like, listen, if anyone can get me to read this book and watch the movie, it is Tom Blythe. They knew exactly what they were doing when they casted him in this role. Because I only gave it a chance for him because I love his work. He was in Hunger Games. He was in Billy the Kid. Like, I am truly a really big fan of what he does. So I was like, if anyone can pull this off, it's him. So I decided for the month of January that I was going to read the book. And I went in with very low expectations because I was like, oh, I hated the other 2. There's a very good chance I'm going to DNF this, or I'm only going to give like a 3-star. So I was like telling my friends, like, hey, we're going to hate read this. We're going to hate read this, and that way we can make fun of it, and it could be a silly good time, and then we can watch the movie, and hopefully the movie will be better than the book, and it's going to be like a whole shadeal. And then I started reading it, and I very quickly realized that this book is different to me than the other Emily Henry books that I have read. I felt very attached to the backstories of these characters, and I'll dive into that in a second. But I gave this a 5-star, and the movie did come out today, so I was waiting to talk about them both together. And I enjoyed the movie, but not as much as I enjoyed the book, which is not what I expected to say. I fully had a whole thing ready to be like, oh, the book was okay, but the movie was a game changer. It was actually the opposite for me. This book really did it for me, and I hate it. I hate it. Because I'm an Emily Henry hater, and how am I going to be an Emily Henry hater with how much I love this book? This book made me cry. I literally sent my friends videos of me crying over this book. And now I'm like, I can't even be an Emily Henry hater. I'm going to be a People We Meet on Vacation enthusiast and still not like her other works. Like, I have no initiative to read anything else by her. Unless Tom Blythe plays in it. And then maybe it would be a game changer, but I can't foresee them casting him in multiple roles. So I do think this might be the only book by Emily Henry that I will ever enjoy. I have no intentions of ever reading anything else by her again. Simply not. And I am shocked and stricken by the fact that I like this so much. Let's get into the book, what it's about, how I'm feeling, and then we'll talk about the movie. So People We Meet on Vacation is following Poppy, who works at like a travel blog, and every summer she goes on a vacation with her friend from college. She travels for work though, so she goes to places all the time, but it's like a very special thing where every summer she goes on a trip with Alex, and Alex is the guy that she met in college, who they're from the same hometown of Linfield, Ohio, and he lives there, and she was always so worried about them growing apart, and they were like, you know what, let's always have summer together, so they're gonna always hang out during the summertime, and they'll always have summer where they're like, because he lives in Ohio and she lives in New York, so it's very much like a story of like friendships finding a way to still be friendships even with the distance. It's very cute on the surface. And Poppy has had a falling out with Alex, and when you're starting the book, you don't know why they've had a falling out. You just know that it's been 2 years since they last talked. Something very awkward happened. You get the sense of that. And when you meet Poppy, she seems very unhappy with her job and with her life, and someone was like, when's the last time that you were happy? And she's like, the last time I was happy was when I was with Alex. So she creates this whole scheme to have another trip with Alex. And when she asks him about going on a trip with her, he goes, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I'm already going on a trip this summer because my brother's getting married. And she somehow makes this whole thing happen where she can also be at the wedding, but they decided to go like 3 days in advance so that like they had like a side Alex and Poppy trip and then the wedding together. So they were going to be together for like 6 days, and they were going to Palm Springs, Florida. And I was already like, okay, this is kind of cute, but like it's not giving anything special to me. And then as I kept reading the book and I kept understanding more of Poppy and Alex, I came very deeply attached to them. And this is where I'm going to get into spoiler territory. So if you have not read the book and you plan on reading the book or you plan on watching the movie, I would probably stop listening here and go to the next timestamp. This book really hit me as someone who grew up in Ohio as a lonely child. As you read the book, you come to understand that Alex and Poppy felt very lonely in their hometown for different reasons. Alex's mom passed away when he was very young, and he had to take like he started taking care of his brothers. And he never really had a chance to be a child. He was like his brothers very relied on him, and his dad was not capable of taking care of them. So he took on the responsibility of essentially being the dad. And he's not really allowed to like have fun, relax any kind of way. And then on the other hand, Poppy grew up with a very supportive family, but she always felt like she didn't belong, like outside of her family. Like she was bullied very heavily in school. And she was like, I'm going to leave one day because when I leave, I'll get away from these people and then I'll find people that understand me. And obviously, when Alex and Poppy become friends in college and they hit it off and they start doing these yearly trips, that's when they don't feel lonely. They don't feel lonely when they're together. And it becomes like a very scary thing for both of them because Alex is so afraid that Poppy will die like his mom and then he'll lose her. And Poppy's afraid that if he really gets to know her, he'll leave her like everyone else does. And I really connected with that because when you grow up being a very lonely child, the first time you meet someone who doesn't make you feel lonely, it is actually terrifying. For two different sides of a coin, it can be terrifying in the way that you're like, oh my god, is this real? Like, they're gonna leave me one day. Or it could be, oh my god, they don't know me yet. And when they get to know the real me, they're gonna leave me. And it's just like, it's very scary to allow someone to love you and to love someone at the same time. Like, they're both like, Alex is more of a subtle loneliness that you don't really know until he admits to it. But Poppy's is very much like she tells it to her people very honestly, like, oh, I'm very lonely and I moved away from my hometown to stop being lonely. And then you realize that she was always lonely, except for when she was with Alex. And she was just running away from the loneliness, which I think is a very thing that a lot of us do. Like, this book, at the end of the day, this book is not a romance to me. This book is about overcoming loneliness and overcoming like childhood, I don't want to say trauma, but like childhood hardship. And it's very beautiful. And then that's where I have an issue with the movie, because the movie took all those high emotional, like tension, angsty moments and removed them. They're not in the movie really. Like, you do know that Alex's mom dies, and you do know that Poppy was bullied, but it doesn't go into the detail that the book does. And I do not enjoy the movie all the way because of that. I do not think it's a perfect adaptation. I think it was amazing. I think Tom and, is her name Elizabeth? Don't know who's playing Poppy. But whoever it is, they do a great job. They're a perfectly casted Poppy and Alex. But they changed so much of the source material that I think removing those sad, angsty bits actually kind of removed the heart behind Poppy and Alex. And you kind of like, in the movie, they came off very surface level and you really don't get to know them very much. And I saw an interview by the author who was like, oh yeah, I would want you guys to watch the movie first and then to see if you like the characters. And then once you like the characters, go read the book, not vice versa. And now I understand why. Because that's a wild thing to say. For an author to be like, oh yeah, go watch the movie instead of reading the book that I wrote. They want you to go watch the movie that they only had a small part in. I've never heard that before. And now I understand why. Because the movie is marketed as like a very happy summary, they're gradually falling in love, it's sweet, like there's not really any like sadness in the movie at all, and there is a ton of sadness in the book. And I think when they removed that, they removed the part of the book that I enjoyed, because I didn't enjoy this book for the romance. I enjoyed this book because of how I related to them as someone who grew up in Ohio and lonely as well. And I really enjoyed the fact that they found each other and were able to, like, overcome the loneliness together. Like, yeah, their adventures are fun. Yeah, it's so much fun watching them fall in love. But for me, it was, like, the realistic side of living in Ohio is what really got me. Something else that I don't like about the movie is they removed a lot of the romance scenes that were personally my favorite. There's one of my favorite scenes in the book is he says, I know you and I know what you sound like when you like something. Love. Another one of my favorite scenes is they're holding hands for the first time in public and she goes, you don't like holding hands. And he's like, what you do? And she's like, so I just get what I want? And he goes, yeah, you just get what you want. Is that a problem? And those are not in the movie. I feel like I understand what happened. So I looked into this after I watched the movie. They could not film in Palm Springs, Florida. I don't understand why, but I'm also not a film person. They were not able to film in Florida. They said it was too difficult to film in. And they then moved the location of the movie to Barcelona, which I think is a wild shift in tone, in my opinion. To go from Palm Springs to Barcelona, those don't compute to me. So a lot of the scenes that happened in Palm Springs in the book quite literally not happen in the movie because they were not in Palm Springs. They were in a completely different country with different standards, different locations. So they then had to take those scenes out and then put in scenes that made sense for Barcelona. And I think that was a horrible choice. I still love the movie, but I don't think it made any sense to take them to a European country when it happens in Florida. And the vibe of it is very much giving Florida. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's gross, it's miserable. And they go through a lot of scenes of like random attractions in Florida that makes total sense. Like they went to a fucking zoo at one point and they see a bunch of weird things in Florida that only make sense to be in Florida. And then taking the movie to be set in Barcelona. Barcelona is a very romantic, like aesthetically pleasing place. And then like, so you change the vibe of the relationship by doing that. And I didn't like that. So the movie, to me, it was lacking the true heart of the characters. It lacked the location tone that was in the book. I also think they removed a lot of the romance to kind of almost like simplify it. Because in the movie, when you're watching it, it kind of seems like she like was in love with him and like admitted it once she realized. But in the book, she has a lot of, oh my god, I'm in love with him, but I'm not going to tell him moments. She has a ton of those. Like, there's so many mentions of her being like, I'm just going to love him silently. I'm just going to love him and not tell him because she's so afraid that she's going to be holding him back because she thinks that she thinks there's something wrong with her, essentially. And she's like, oh, I can't love him because I'm going to prevent him from having a family and a home and a happiness. So she knows that she loves him for a very, very long time. Like, for most of their friendship. And I really enjoyed it in the book when you got those like inner dialogue moments of her being like, oh, fuck me, I'm in love with him. But then she's not telling him in any capacity. In the movie, you see it, and I think he can tell, and you can tell that he's in love with her very quickly. In the book, it's not like that. In the book, you don't know that he's in love with her. In the book, it seems like he's actually the one kind of putting distance between the two of them, but then you find out he's putting distance between the two of them because he doesn't think that she likes him. So there's a lot more like tension and angst that I really, really enjoyed in the book. To be honest, the movies just seemed like corny teenagers on a vacation. It lacked like all emotional depth to me. I still loved it. But what I told a friend was, I gave the book a 5-star. If I were to read a book based off of how the movie was, I would have only given it a 3-star. There's nothing really truly special about the movie. A lot of people were like, oh, bring back rom-coms. And it does bring back rom-coms. It has like a chase scene. It has an iconic dance scene that they added. They added both of those. Those were not in the book. And I think they did that because they wanted to bring back the rom-com genre. So to me, the book and the movie are two different entities. The book and the movie had two different purposes. The movie was meant to be a very typical, stereotypical romance movie of horny friends who are in love, who are going to tell each other in the rain. It's giving those vibes. And the book's giving, I'm sad, I'm lonely, can I even be loved? Can I love anyone? Are we going to make this work? Are you going to die from cancer one day? Are you going to die? Like, it's like sad and frightening. And I loved it. Like, that is why I gave it 5 stars. Like I said, if I read a book on exactly how the movie was, would not have enjoyed it nearly as much. So that's my little deep dive into the book and the movie and how I feel about both. I love Alex and Poppy. I love them so much because I relate to them so much for different reasons. And I do think that you could read the book and watch the movie and enjoy them separately, like I did. But I do think if you're going to read the book and then watch the movie expecting a very direct adaptation, you're going to be not disappointed, but you're going to be surprised. They changed their entire backstory. They changed why they're meeting up again. They changed where they're meeting up again. Sarah, who is Alex's on and off girlfriend, she's introduced in the movie way sooner than she was in the book. Like, they weren't even dating at that time period in the book, but they chose to make them dating in the movie. Like, they changed so many aspects of it that I would, if you told me that it wasn't even based on a book, I would believe you. I would be like, oh, that was an entirely original thought. But no, it is based off of a book, and I just think, to me, I'm gonna keep them separate. Like, there was the People We Meet on Vacation movie that was fun and romantic and silly and had that, like, 90s romance vibe, and then there's People We Meet on Vacation book that gave me angsty vibes that made me sob as a child. Again, like, this genuinely, I think, triggered my inner child trauma. I was like, I love them so much, and I want them to be happy. And that's exactly how this book made me feel. So, I'm sorry, this is 16 minutes long, but I knew after I read I knew as soon as I finished the movie today, I was like, I'm gonna have to do a deep dive into this, and as to what I like about both. I did like the scenes they added to the movie. They were really Poppy and Alex coded. Like, they didn't add anything that didn't feel like them, but when they added those scenes, they removed crucial things to me. I almost wish that it could have been longer. Actually, if you want my honest to God opinion, I think it should have been a show. Because this is a 400-page book. The movie's not even 2 hours long. So I don't know, you didn't make the movie. They condensed it so much to fit into like an hour and 35-minute movie. I think it would have beneficial more to be like The Summer I Turned Pretty, where it was like a multiple season show. I almost wish that, because like I think there's like 11 summers. Hold on, 10 summers. I have the book in my hand. Hold on. 12 summers. Okay, so they've had 12 summers together. I almost think it should have been a 12 episode show where each summer, maybe like 14, maybe you could have had like us meeting them. Okay, so this is how I would have done it in my dreams. It would have been a 14 episode show. First episode would have been seeing present day Alex and Poppy, of them being no longer talking and her trying to get them to talk again. And then every episode after that would be tied to a summer. Because they go, like, the chapters for the summers are long. Like, they're not, like, little quick things like they are in the movie. Like, they're, like, a whole story. Like, there's a whole lot of moments that happen in them. So I think every episode would have been tied to a summer. And then the last episode, I would have made be very long, like, maybe an hour and a half. And I would have had it be modern Alex and Poppy, where they're, like, falling in love, retying, having the sex, deciding to be together. And I think that would have made so much more sense as a format versus a hour and 35-minute movie where you're trying to learn about 12 summers in one. I don't think they even actually mentioned all 12 summers in the movie. I think they mentioned like 3. And I think they actually took out one of the most important summers. Yeah, another I'm remembering it. They took out one of the most important summers. The summer they stopped talking is not even actually in the movie. So the summer they stopped talking is in Croatia. I think that's how you say it. And they stop talking because they get drunk and kiss. In the movie, they stop talking in Tuscany, which is where she takes a pregnancy test, realizes it's negative, and then she almost kisses him. But in the book, it's because they kiss each other. And they're like, oh my god, we're drunk, we shouldn't have done that, we feel weird. So it's like, they changed a lot. They changed, like, to me, they changed the entire tone of the book. So I think they should have had a longer movie, like maybe a 2.5-hour movie. They should have made it a TV show or something. But I like both of them as separate entities. When I compare the two of them, I notice too much to be happy. But yeah, this is the only time you'll see me talk about People We Meet on Vacation, probably. Because I think I'm a little too emotional to talk about it ever again in such a long capacity. This is the only time you'll hear me talk about Emily Henry in a good light, to be honest. Because I have nothing good to say about Beach Read or Book Lovers. Those are my lowest rated books of all time. I hate them with a fucking passion. So, Emily Henry, you have a one-hit wonder. Don't ever expect to hear good things from me ever again. I still hate you. And that's all I have to say about this, which it's been 20 fucking minutes. We got to the point, though. I do think I would recommend this book to some people. My friends are currently reading it. We did a buddy read. We're going to watch the movie together. I watched it without them because I was like, I need to watch this immediately of it coming out. So it came out at 3 a.m. I woke up this morning. I watched it immediately. So my friends haven't even finished the book. I literally finished the book in 24 hours and then watched the movie the very next day. So I'm on a different level than them. But I'll be back when I finish the next book. It is January 11th, and I just finished my fourth book of the year. I read The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen, which is the first book in the Crucible series. This is a more recent series that I didn't really know about until my friend Paris told me about it. I am obviously reading it for her, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys. For Mooing with Friends, I'm supposed to be doing like halfway check-ins. That's not realistic right now. I thought with the new year all my problems would be solved and I'd be like more able to film, and filming's actually been like pretty difficult to do because like I work and then I read and then I stream, and then there's like very little time for me to film. And even with me doing less videos, I still somehow am not finding like a whole period of time to record. So I think I'm just gonna be doing the end of every book. I'll just talk about my feelings. I know that's different than how it's been done, and maybe this will be the exception. Like maybe in future Moving with Friends, I'm able to do better reactions. It's just like I thought that 2026 would be like, bam, I'm magically healed. But I have been dealing with brain fog a lot and just like fatigue and all that, and so I feel like I'm slowly getting into the new year and getting adjusted to everything that I've changed. And so I do have the hopes of doing Moving with Friends the way that I have in the past. It just probably won't be January. I think this could be my typical style where I just like read the book and then I do a review after I finish the book. And I don't think Paris will mind. We're BFFs, so I don't think she'll mind at all. But if you're wondering like, oh, why is there no reactions? That's why. You're just gonna get my reactions at the end. So I read this book, not very quickly. I think it took me like 4 days to read, maybe 3.5 days to read. It's a pretty big book. I think my copy was 650 pages. And I went back and forth on my review a lot. And I decided to give it a 5-star. I was originally thinking like a 4.75. But I'm going to bump it up to a 5 because I did really enjoy this. It's like Hades and Persephone. But in this book, Persephone is not his lover, which is like not ever done. Like anytime you ever read a Hades book, it's him being in love with her, and like obviously like, oh, he kidnapped her, blah blah blah. Like that's like what I'm so typical to reading when it comes to Hades stories, and it's not. She's more of like a sister figure to him in this book, and the main character is his love interest, and it's a pretty slow burn. I don't think they get together until like chapter 90. So like you gotta get through a lot of the book before they even like heat up even a little bit. That's okay. I really enjoyed the plot. This is giving like the Hunger Games in a way. It's like a champion book, and unfortunately, anytime someone reads a champion book, it's always gonna be put up against the Hunger Games because like the Hunger Games is like the OG most famous championship book that ever has been written. Like it's the blueprint for championship books. And this is one of those kinds of books, but I still liked it because I feel like it had differences to it. Like I don't think I've ever read a championship between like Greek gods. So let me just like tell you what it's about. So this is following the Crucible, which happens every 100 years. And every 100 years, each Greek god and goddess selects like a victor almost, where like a champion who's gonna compete in these tournaments for them to see who will be the new king or queen of the gods, because it's not always Zeus, which I think is very interesting because Zeus is always the king of the gods in like every fucking book ever wrote. Like I don't think I've ever heard something different. And in this one, they actually compete for that spot, and then they're the king of the god or king of the queen of the gods for like the next 100 years until the cycle repeats. And it has been Zeus for a while, but it's never gonna always be him. So like all of them get a victor. I keep calling them victors. Like keep champion, I guess is a better word. They each get pick a champion, and they are put through 7 crucibles. I think it's 7. And they're all crucibles held by each like main god and goddess that's like tied into who the god and goddess is. So like Poseidon does an ocean one, Aphrodite does like a love-based one, and it's very interesting. I thought the concept was amazing, and the execution was just as good. the main character, she is a thief, so she lives in the house of the Hermes, but she is cursed by Zeus to never be loved. She was cursed as a baby because her mom was at the Zeus praying house and her water burst, and she had the baby on Zeus's praying grounds. And you would have thought that would have been a blessing, but somehow Zeus took that very offensively and was like, no, fuck you and your child. And she got cursed by Zeus literally on her day of existing, and she is not able to be loved by anyone. So her parents end up giving her up at the age of 3, and she gets sent to the House of Thieves, where she is then raised by like the thieves essentially. And she has paid off her debt by the time the book starts, but she has nowhere else to go because she can't be loved by anyone. And she is out wandering the night of the Crucible, and she runs into nobody else but the Hades. And he's like talking with her, and he's like, you shouldn't like be so upset with Zeus, like fuck him, but like don't get yourself killed. And then she's like, never mind, blah 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 blah. And then like time skips a little bit, and then they go to the ceremony when they announce the Crucible, and Hades has never participated in a Crucible before, and he decides that this year he will be performing in the Crucible, and who is his champion gonna be? None other than the main character. And the main character is like, yo, why did this guy select me? I'm like, well, what is his intentions here? And we find out that Hades has a plot of his own. And it takes a very, very long time for the main character to find out what his plot is. And I'm not going to tell you it because it'd be huge spoilers. But it's pretty much Hades trying to fuck around with Zeus. As he should. I fucking hate Zeus. I don't know why anyone finds Zeus attractive in any kind of way. Like, Zeus is a downright horrible person. Horrible god. I have always been a fan of Hades. I always thought that Hades was, like, the underdog of the gods. And because, like, I was like, he seems grumpy and mean, but, like, in a lot of stories of Hades, he's not even typically the bad guy. Typically, in the stories, it's Zeus who's the horrible person. Like, Hades is just, like, collecting the souls of dead people and trying to make them comfortable. And Zeus is, like, killing his wives, killing anyone that fucks with him. So, in my head, Zeus is the #1 enemy. So, I don't mind when he is fucking fucked around with. Not sexually, of course, but, like, I don't mind when people are, like, out to get him or out to get revenge on him. I love those kinds of stories. So, it's a very interesting, like, it's kind of like Hunger Games, but, like, with Greek gods. And there's, like, 7 tournaments instead of just like the one big one, and you can die in these very easily, but it's not like the purpose of it. And there's only like one winner because there's only gonna be one king or queen. And the main character originally is just like, yo, I'm just trying to survive. Like, I'm just gonna do this so I can survive. I have no intentions of winning. Then her intentions end up changing along the book, which makes for a very fascinating story. And now you're probably saying, May, you sound like you really loved it. Why were you debating giving it not 5 stars? The only reason why I'm debating not giving it 5 stars is that I just feel like the first, like, 50 pages were wrote very slowly, and my brain didn't particularly love it. But then once I got past that hurdle of the first 50 pages, I was very much tuned in. I actually wasn't supposed to finish until tomorrow, and I ended up reading, like, double the amount of pages that I had to finish it today. So I ended up reading like 330 pages today to finish the book. So that shows you how much I did enjoy it. And I figured since I enjoyed it that much to read extra in a day, that I would just bump it up to 5 stars. Even though I have that one little tiny critique of like, I feel like the beginning was very, very slow. The second book is out, and the third book is coming out this year. I'm going to add it to my series tracker, but I really don't know if it will get to it this year because the third book doesn't come out until I think December of 2026. So really, it might not get finished until maybe 2027. I don't know. I'm in the middle of so many series that, like, I'm not even deciding what series I read at this point. The TBR pickers, like how I pick my TBR, that will be how it gets picked, and I won't know in advance what series I'm going to be reading. So I have no clue when I'll be getting to the rest of these books, but I will be reading them. And I actually rated it higher than my friend Paris did. My friend Paris gave it a 4.75. And I ended up giving it a 5 star. We almost gave it the same rating. But she has ranted and raved about how good this book was. And she really wanted someone else to read it with her because it's not hugely talked about. Like, it has like 15,000 reviews, but like, that's pretty low for a fantasy book. Because if you think about how many reviews are like on like Fourth Wing or like ACOTAR, which I don't really support those authors anymore, but like I'm just giving like a basis of like how popular fantasy can get. When you think about those number of reviews, like 15,000 is actually really quite low for a more recent romantasy. But definitely loved it. I love the perception of all the different gods and goddesses and how they were acting with people, and I love getting to know the other champions, and I did cry for them several times, and it just seemed like a very well-rounded like intermingling of like Greek mythology and like a champion style novel with the romance still into it. It's really good. I would recommend it. And that is the fourth book that I've read. I do know what book I'll be reading next because I already spun the wheel. I'll be reading Bull Moon Rising, which is essentially bull smut. Paris was showing this book at Walmart one day, and she's like, I haven't read this, but I'm so intrigued. Would you read it for me? And I was like, absolutely. Because if there's one thing about me, if a friend needs me to read a book to see if they would like it or if it's any good, I will absolutely be that person. So she ended up putting it on the list for this month, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. I think it's just smut, honestly. I think it might be like 400 pages of bull smut. We'll find out together, and I'll be back to talk about it once I actually finish it, which might be, I think it's like 400 pages, so it might be, it's currently Monday, so it might be like maybe later this week when I'm back, but yeah. So far, we're doing great. We've had 2 5-stars and then 2 4-stars, so excellent month so far. Okay, it is January 14th, and I just finished Bull Moon Rising, and I'm here to talk about it. A little bit of a spoiler alert. I didn't particularly love it. I'm gonna dive into it and all the reasons behind it. So I'm giving it a 3-star. This is one of the books that Paris actually hadn't read, and she asked me to read it to see if it was any good, because we do have typically have like the same taste in books. Like, we very much align typically when it comes to books that we both enjoy. So she's like, I don't know if I want to read this. Will you read it and then tell me if it's any good? And I was like, absolutely. I personally feel like it's very middle of the road for me. It's super, super fun, but the writing isn't super great. The writing's kind of all over the place for me. It's like kind of really silly, and it's just like a bad show that you watch because it's bad, but you're like, this is so bad, but it's good. That's how I would categorize this book. It's not a masterpiece. It's not going to win any awards. It's not going to be mentioned by me probably any other time. Like, it was just a fun time, and it was an easy read. This is following the main character, Azabeth, who has left her home to go join this, like, guild of, like, artifact searchers, essentially. And if you find the artifacts, you get, like, a cut of the money. And then the guild gets the rest of the money, and she's like, well, I need to leave because my father has bankrupted us, but we're like, literally like, they're called shareholders, but they're essentially like, they're like kings for their area, but like not kings, like nobility for their area, and they are supposed to take care of like a bunch of people, and her father has gambled all their artifacts and money away, and she thinks she's gonna save the day. She's like, I'm 30, I'm a spinster. And she was supposed to get married, but then she found out the guy was only marrying her for her title. And she has no title because they're broke. So she's like, I'm out of this place. So she leaves the man, breaks off the engagement, and she goes to join the guild. Well, she very quickly finds out that they don't allow women. They don't allow women to join. They're very sexist. Very like, oh, you got titties. So she then finds, they're called like Tarians, I think is how you pronounce it. They're essentially bulls. Because he is in the guild, and she was like, let's make a compromise. She asks him to be her chaperone, because if she has a chaperone, she can join the guild, because he can essentially, like, vet her and be like, oh yeah, she's a good person, and she's more than likely gonna pass the guild test, because, like, you don't just go down and look for artifacts, you have to be able to dig, and you have to be able to fight, and you have to be, like, physically fit, and she's a noble. Like, she has none of those things going for her. So she tells him, like, hey, like, be my, you know, I've already forgot the word again. Be my chaperone, and I'll give you something in return. And what she's able to give him in return is a little wild. There's this thing called the Conquest Moon. And the Conquest Moon happens every 5 years. And during the Conquest Moon, the bulls want to screw all the time and mate and rut and breed, and it's like very, very, very like aggressively, like they're like, oh, I must fuck right now, and their eyes like turn red and they have no control over it. It's like for 5 days during the Conquest Moon, and the man that she's asking to be her chaperone, he has no wife, he has no one to use. So he's gonna use a sex worker, and she is like, hey, if you be my chaperone, I will allow you to rut me during the Conquest Moon, which is like pretty much transactional sex. Like in a way, she kind of is a sex worker herself. Because she's like, it's just like, do this and I'll give you sex. It's like, okay. And he agrees because he's like pretty desperate to have someone to rut with. So he starts training, and in this guild, you have to have 5 people in a class because it's like a sacred 5. And the 5 go down together. They all have their positions, and they all like protect each other to find the artifacts. And that's what the book is about: is her being able to do the artifacts, and then her being there for him during the Conquest Moon. There's a whole betrayal plot line where her like ex-fiance comes back into the picture to like take over her shareholding lands. It gets like a little complicated towards the like second half of the book. Like I can't really explain it, but like the general plot of it is that like they essentially use each other, and they do get married. So it's like a marriage of convenience, and it's like not romantic at all. Like they're just having sex, and then like later in the book they're like, we're kind of in love with each other, let's just keep doing this thing. So it's like, if you're like a romance girly, this probably isn't for you, because there's not really like any like romantic gestures, in my opinion. Like nothing that was like, oh my god, that's so romantic. It was just very much like they were using each other for a gain, and one of the gains just so happens to be sex. But it was a fun time. It was an interesting read, super easy. I read it all in one day. It took me like 5 hours, but I just like sat down, knocked it out of the park, and we're giving it 3 stars. There is more in the series. I don't feel motivated to read the rest of the series, so I just won't be. I do think it's very interesting concept of them, you know, being with bulls, because I love cows, and I had asked my friend to get me any cow book that I can find, and this was a cow book. I mean, bulls are cows. I just think for me, it wasn't the issue of him being a bull, it was just like the writing of it. The writing was just not good. Especially because like she's a virgin, and it just like it gets a little weird around virginity, in my opinion, and I just like it's definitely a 3.5 for me, I think, is what I ended up giving it on Storygraph. Like it's not bad. Probably won't recommend it to anyone, but it doesn't feel like a waste of my time. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about Bull Moon Rising, and I do plan on doing another video sometime during the year where I read other cow books, because I do want to read cow books, because I think that's just a silly idea. Hopefully those ones are better than this, is all I'm gonna say. So Paris, I probably don't recommend this book. I mean, you can always give it a try, and maybe you'll like it more than me, but I don't think you will. But it's fun. It's like, essentially, anytime I read a book that's like bad but fun, I compare it to Glee. Like, I love Glee. It's not good though. It's even actually kind of a little problematic. It's kind of even a little controversially a shit show. But I love watching it. I cannot get enough of it, and that's kind of how I feel about the book. Like, I was like, this sucks, but I can't put it down. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to someone. And I'm off to start the next book. Hi, it is January 14th, and I'm here to talk about the book I just finished, which is called The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. And yes, I had to look at the name because I keep getting it wrong. By Kimberly Lemming. Oh my gosh, I don't know why that won't stay in my brain. But yes, this is a whole series of like little silly romance books. And from what I understand, they're extra on purpose. Like the author wants them to be silly and cringy, kind of like as an FU to their haters. And I personally love that energy. And I knew going into them the kind of books that they are, so it didn't like negatively impact my journey with them at all. And I've decided to give this a 4.5. They're so silly. The only reason why it's not a 5-star to me is that I actually thought they were going to be freakier. I've heard a lot of things about these books. I really, truly have. And I think in my head, I thought they had more smut than they actually have. This only had like 2 actual smut scenes in it. And I think that didn't live up to my expectations. I thought they would have been like 4 or 5. And like maybe the other books in the series, they do get a bit freakier. Like maybe this is just like their little dipping their toes in, and then as you go, they get spicier and spicier. But I just think from everything I've heard, I just expected there to be more spice to them. And it was kind of disappointing when there wasn't as much spice, but it's still like a very interesting kind of book of like a nice balance of smut with plot. But I didn't expect there to be plot. I thought it was going to be like 60% smut, 40% plot, and it was actually like 60% plot, 40% smut. So kind of like Uno reversed me, which is fine. I'm just not gonna give it a 5-star because of that. And I will continue the rest of the series, and maybe they'll get better for me. It's pretty self-explanatory what this book is about. Literally, someone gets drunk and saves a demon. But in this village, there is a goddess who apparently has like the powers to protect their people from these demons attacks, and the book kind of opens up with the main character getting drunk, and then on their way home she stumbles into a demon who needs help. They're like stuck under, I think, like I can't even remember, like a tree or something. They're stuck and like can't get up, so she helps them get up. And then once they get up, the guy turns into a demon and is like, you should run. And then like they chase them all the way back to their farm, and then they have like a fight, and the main character shoves cinnamon like in the demon's face, and that somehow makes them revert back to their human form. And that leads us into realizing that the demons aren't actually the bad people, the goddess is. The demons are under like a spell from the goddess where they're pretty much being like mind controlled and like mentally like crazed by the goddess. So the main character and the demon team up to go to all of the goddess's temples and destroy them in the hopes of breaking the mental capturing of these demons. And it's a super interesting concept. I am really curious to see the plot of the other books in the series, because I really don't know where they could be like going. But yeah, I will say the names are really silly. I mean, the main character is literally named Cinnamon. She's literally named Cinnamon. So it has that very silly mindset to it. And I think some people might be like cringe about that. But like I said, I knew that going into it. So I wasn't like super impacted by that. I still think that's a very stupid name for a child. Well, now a grown adult, but like that's a really stupid name to be giving your child, in my opinion. But like all of the names in their family are named after spice because they run a spice farm. So like it's not like she's named Cinnamon for no reason. There is a reason behind it. I just think like all the character names are really silly. But like I said in the beginning of this clip, the author is doing that on purpose. So it's not bad writing. It's not the writer being cringe. It's actually the writer being so good that they're able to make it cringe. Like it's really fun. I had a really, really fun time with it. And maybe the next books will be spicier, and then I'll be giving them 5 stars. But I don't have a whole too much to say about this one. I mean, the title kind of gives it away. She gets drunk, she saves a demon, they go on a little adventure, they hanky-panky, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am, on to the next one. It's kind of how it felt. Hi, it's been a few days, because it did take me a few days to finish the next book, but it is January 18th, and I'm here to talk about Legendborn. This is the book that I knew Paris was like the most protective of, and I was like, if I don't like this book, Paris might be like, yo. So I don't want to say there was a lot of pressure. I mean, like, there is a lot of pressure, but like I like to meet that challenge of like, hey, this is my friend's favorite book. I want to embrace the pressure of her wanting me to enjoy it and seeing it like in a critical lens, but also like a rose lens. And I even though I know it's Paris' favorite book, I fucking loved it still. Like, even like it's not like I love it because she told me to love it. It's like, I knew it was her favorite book. So I was like, I'm going to go into this knowing there's pressure to like it. But if I don't like it, it's fine. She'll understand. I don't want to not like it because then it's going to be awkward because I have to be like, yeah, Paris, I don't like your favorite book. But that problem is avoided because I loved it. I'm giving it 5 stars. I actually stayed up really late last night to binge this because I wasn't supposed to finish it for 2 more days. Literally 2 more days from now I was supposed to finish it because I'm doing like 100 pages a day. I think I ended up reading like 375 pages last night. I think I stayed up until midnight or later to finish this book because I just could not find a spot to stop reading. Like, it got so good. And I was like, I need to know what happens next. I need to know what's coming. And then, like, I would know what was coming, and then there would be something else, and I was like, oh, I need to know more. And there was never a point where I felt comfortable stopping, where I wasn't going to have up all night thinking about the book. Like, there wasn't, like, any peace in the book, or, like, moments of peace and, like, calmness to it. And it's incredible. I cannot believe I have not read this book before now. It is incredible. I can see why Paris is so deeply protective of this book and of this character, because it deals with racism. And I didn't know that. I don't actually know what I thought this book was about, but it was nothing like I thought it was about. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, I didn't know much, but, like, what I did know, I thought this was, like, a political fantasy. Like, I knew there was a YA, and I didn't really expect it to be romance. I thought it was, like, more kind of like The Cruel Prince, where there was, like, a political side to it. And I didn't go in with low expectations. I kind of went in with high expectations because I love political fantasy. I mean, like, The Cruel Prince is one of my favorite books, and no one's made that comparison. That's what my brain was connecting. Like, let me be clear. No one's being like, oh, the Legendborn is like The Cruel Prince. No one's saying that. That's just how my mind connected them, because I was like, oh, I think this is gonna be like The Cruel Prince, and then I like The Cruel Prince, so I'll like this. And even though it's not like that, I still really, really, really loved it. So let me talk about what the book's about, and then I'll give a spoiler warning and then go into my review, because I feel like it's very important that I give a spoiler warning for this book. This is following Bree, whose mother is killed in, like, a car accident, and one day in the middle of the night, and she, ever since her mom has died, she's pretty much been, like, living in the after. Like, she calls herself the After Bree, which is, like, she's very angry, she's very grief-stricken, she kind of doesn't really have, like, a lot of motivation in her life. She's a very, very, very angry person. Like, she says there was the before Bree, and now there's the after Bree, and now she's, like, living in the after Bree. And before her mom died, they got into a really big fight because Bree applied to this university called Carolina University, I think, and they have a program for younger kids. By kids, I mean fucking teenagers. I mean, I think she's, like, 17. Like, or essentially we could go to college early. It's like the last 2 years of high school, you were able to go to this program and essentially, like, go to college 2 years early. You'll live on the dorms, you'll go to the classes, you'll just be called, like, EC. And she applies without telling her mom. She applies completely behind her back. The person that knows that she's applying is her best friend, Alice, who is also applying. Alice's parents are aware that she's applying. But Bree knew that her parents would be upset because her parents are incredibly protective around her. They're, like, her mom has something against this university, but we really don't know what. We don't know the extent of that. So the night before her mom dies, she gets in a really big argument because she gets accepted to the university, and then she has to tell her mom, like, hey, I got accepted to this university and I'm gonna go. And her mom is like, no, you're not going at all. And they have a huge, huge, huge fight, and she doesn't speak to her mom all of the rest of the next day. And then that night, her mom sadly passes away in the car accident. And then we kind of get the story about Bree going to the university still. She is rooming with her friend Alice, and her, like, first couple of nights there, she gets invited to, like, this exclusive, like, night before the semester starts thing where, like, you go and you jump off a cliff, which, by the way, is giving very Twilight feelings. Also, this book gave me a lot of Twilight feelings. We'll get into that in a second. But they go and there's, like, a party essentially where you, like, the people that are going to the college for the very first time, they go and jump off the cliff. Everyone else is just kind of drinking and partying. Well, at this party, a fight breaks out, and Bree is seeing things that no one else can see, and she meets someone, and they try to erase her memories of the events, but it doesn't stick. She still has her memories. So then she has a lot of questions of, like, who was there and what was she seeing and why weren't they able to erase her memories? And I'm trying to, like, avoid massive spoilers. So, like, kind of, I'm going into the plot and I won't say too much else, but Bree ends up finding out that her mom might have been involved with this person, or she has some kind of connections with this person, and this person is a part of like a whole thing, like a secret society thing that's connected to King Arthur, and there's like knights, and there's a king, and there's like, it's really hard to explain without giving too much away. But what you need to know about this book is Bree experiences a lot of racism in this book. And a lot of it is not like racism on the surface. It's very like, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's very like internalized racism. Like there's a couple of moments where people mistake her as a server, or they say, oh, you're not meant to be here, or they're like, she finds like a graveyard of all the other black people that used to be slaves at this university, and like there's a lot of moments of racism. And I think, I'm giving a spoiler warning for this, but it's not really much of a spoiler warning. I think people get uncomfortable by that. And I think as white people, you should be uncomfortable by that. I think, you know, reading about racism should be hard to read about because it was a very horrific thing. And this author is a black person. And they have made their story be about a black person going to essentially like an almost all white school. Like there's hardly any black people at the school. And then not only that, she gets involved in a society where they have like no black people in the society. And it's kind of like going through like the moments of racism that like people don't even realize they're being racist. And like the main character tries to deal with it, but then she kind of reaches a breaking point. And then it's just like, what I'm trying to say is, I think that people might not enjoy this book because of the racism, because they get uncomfortable by it. I see this happen a lot with the Poppy War. The Poppy War also explores racism and colonialism. And I think that sometimes people, white people, I'm talking about white people specifically. I think white people get uncomfortable reading about topics that like talk about uncomfortable things. And then they put up like a barrier around it. Like, oh, I don't want to read the rest of this. Or, oh, I don't really think this book is for me. Because they almost hit that barrier of uncomfortability. And they can't connect to the main character's struggles. Well, no, you can't because you're a white person. And you were never a slave. But I do think we should be reading these stories because as white people, we should have to be uncomfortable by what happened. We should be uncomfortable by our ancestors' history. And yes, this is a fantasy book, but you know, the racism is not a fantasy. I mean, that racism happens all the time still. And I just think that I read through a lot of reviews, and that was like the general gist that I was getting from people who didn't love this book, is that they weren't understanding like the purpose, the true purpose behind the book. Like a lot of people were like, oh, I really like the King Arthur stuff. It was never meant to be about the King Arthur stuff. That was just like, I don't know how to explain this. I mean, obviously I'm a white person, but like I felt like it was really important for me to like talk about what I was noticing while I was reading the book, and then what I was seeing people say who had read the book. And that really stood out to me because people never mentioned what she went through and her story and her lore. I kept being told, I really like the King Arthur stuff. I really like the King Arthur stuff by like so many people, like probably like, I want to say like 7-8 people. That's all they ever mentioned to me about the book was the King Arthur stuff. We spoke with Paris about this, and Paris was like, yeah, when I hear someone say that they only like the King Arthur stuff, it comes off like very internalized racist to Paris, who is a black person. And you're reading this story about a black person going through all these trials and racism and struggles, and you say that your favorite part of the book is the white people stuff? And I don't think anyone has the intentions of being racist. I just want to bring this up because like Paris doesn't speak for all black people, obviously, but like we did have a conversation about this. Like, I think people like the King Arthur stuff because they kind of know the history around it, but also like King Arthur was white. So it's kind of like they're like able to connect with the white person, but like they're kind of missing what the true meaning behind the story is. your favorite part of the book should not be the King Arthur stuff. Like, it shouldn't be. Because if you're saying your favorite stuff is the King Arthur stuff, you're essentially saying your favorite stuff is the racist stuff. Like, your favorite parts of the book should be what's happening, like, what the main character herself is doing. I mean, she's a badass. I mean, that's why I said, spoiler alert, because she's got, like, 3 fucking identities living inside of her now. I mean, she has her ancestors. She does have King Arthur because of, like, the whole, you find out the whole lore story behind her. She shouldn't even be the reincarnation of King Arthur, because, like, you know, as a black person, she shouldn't have been, but it's inside of her. But then she's also, like, she has different roots. She's a roof crafter. She's also a blood crafter. Like, she is so incredibly powerful. And I'm like, I hate that so many of the reviews were like, oh, my favorite part was the King Arthur stuff. And I did say that myself, but I was only like 50 pages in. I didn't even know all the racist stuff that was about to happen. And now that I know, I'm like, yeah, me saying that was kind of fucked up. I didn't know that. And I'm sure people that might listen to this video might also think to themselves, oh, I didn't even realize how me saying that could have been portrayed. Because, like, I just think this is, like, very nuanced. I'm not going to delete this, but I hope people, like, understand what I'm trying to say. Like, the King Arthur stuff was racist. And to say that your favorite part of the book was the King Arthur stuff, you see what I mean? It's kind of like internalized or like accidental racism almost on our parts as readers. So, like, I couldn't do this review without talking about that because it just really stuck out to me. But I loved it. I'm giving it a 5-star. I was incredibly emotional reading this. I mean, her story is so wrapped in grief. It's so wrapped in grief that, like, it was, like, almost distraughting to read what she was going through. And, like, it kind of reminded me when I was reading The Poppy War. I had to take breaks, but then I got to a certain point where I couldn't take a break. I wanted to see what was happening, and I wanted to make sure that she was going to be okay. So I just kind of, like, binged it. And it's not triggering in the same kind of way that Poppy War is. Poppy War is very graphic. Poppy War is, like, incredibly graphic, incredibly gory, but, like, it needs to be that way because of what it's discussing. I mean, the Poppy War is basically about a genocide. So it's, like, different from Legendborn, but I'm kind of comparing it because of how I see it be perceived. Like, there are some people out there that think the Poppy War is a romance book. Truly, I've seen that. There is no romance. There is, in fact, no romance in this book. There might be, like, little tiny slivers of, like, some romantic feelings, but they don't ever, like, it's not, like, that's essentially like calling the Cruel Prince a romance book. It's not. It's not a romance book. It's actually incredibly disrespectful to what the books are about to narrow them down to a romance book. Just like I would say the same thing about this book, because there is, like, a little bit of a love triangle going in at the moment. But I think it's almost disrespectful to categorize this as a romance book, which it's not. It's not listed as a romance book. It's listed as a fantasy book, which makes sense. But I think that sometimes people miscategorize things and to justify why they don't want to read something that made them uncomfortable is what I'm trying to say. But yes, I loved it. I will be continuing it. I am scared to continue it. Like, it ends on a cliffhanger. It ends on a cliffhanger, and I want to know what's happening next. But I'm also terrified for what's happening next. And I want to hug the main character. I want to hug Bree. I want to wrap her into my arms, and I want to hug her. And it's just like, it's such a good book. It's such a good book. I'm giving it 5 stars. And I think this might be my favorite book of the month so far. Yeah, this is my review of Legendborn. I loved it. I hope anyone else that reads this book will also love it. And I am always open to discuss it more with anyone else that might want to read it or has read it and wants to discuss more with me. And yeah. Hi. It's a few days. Don't kill me. I'm here to talk about multiple books because I once again got distracted. And I'm really bad about filming lately, but you're gonna forgive me because I'm awesome. Isn't that right? You're gonna forgive me? Cool. I'm here to talk about 4 books. Don't hate me. Hate the game, okay? Let's start with the last one that I read after the Legendborn, which was A Fragile Enchantment, which is by Allison Soft. Soft. I actually don't know how to say their last name. First of all, this cover is absolutely fucking stunning. I love like the orange, like peach color to it, and the like the green of the cover. It's so beautiful. I love it. It's so simplistic, but it's like somehow so perfect as well. And this is a romantasy that is like Bridgerton, but in romantasy, it has like the social knives, the courting, the looking for a wife, looking for a husband, the gossip, but then you add magic to it. And it's so good. I'm giving this 5 stars. I think I knew very early on this going to be a 5-star because this gives everything that I love in Bridgerton. Like all of my favorite aspects of Bridgerton, like even Lady Whistledown, they have their version of Lady Whistledown. And this, that like, but Lady Whistledown in this book is called something else, and it's like a communist that is using it to like get political attention on things, and it's done in such a good manner. Like all my favorite aspects of Bridgerton are in this book, but then you like have a different plot with magic, and it like brings it all together, and I simply loved it. This is following a magical dressmaker who is commissioned for the royal wedding, and she finds herself like in the middle of a big scandal where like these people are feuding with each other, and the king is like out of money and he's being manipulative to other people because he doesn't want to tell anyone that he's out of money. And she is starting to have feelings for the person who's about to get married. And it's like so messy. It's so messy. I highly recommend it. It is a YA, so there's no smut. That's okay though. All the best books have no smut, okay? It's like a slow-born courtship book, and I highly recommend it. I think my friend Paris would like it. I think my friend Allie would like it. I could see anyone who likes Bridgerton liking this. It's like less than 400 pages. It feels like sitting by the fire with a warm drink and a good book is exactly what this kind of book gave me. I was so giddy and giggling the whole way through this. Really just blew my socks off. And then the next book I read was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I think this has been my least favorite Ali Hazelwood book that I have read. It just wasn't it for me. I feel like it was lacking in a lot of ways. It did have its cute moments, but just overall, I think there's better ones out there. I also think that a big thing for me is 2 different things. One, the main character faints a lot, and it's not really ever discussed why she faints, like what medical condition she has. Sometimes it's mentioned that her blood sugar is low. Sometimes it's mentioned that her anxiety is high. And it's never really said, oh, she has this. It just seems like she faints over everything. Like anytime she any kind of emotion, she's just on the ground. And I just feel like I would have loved to have known like the medical or scientific side behind why she's fainting so much. I think that could have added a more academic aspect to it. And then the other thing is I'm seeing a pattern with Ali Hazelwood that I'm not really loving, and I know some people probably don't care about this, but I have ADHD, so I need to be stimulated a lot when it comes to reading. Like, I am not a mood reader, but like if I read a book by an author and they all start to feel the same, I get turned off by the author, because like I love what the author's doing, but I'm wanting like new ideas from the author, but with the same feelings, like the same great writing as the other books and the new ones. And I'm noticing a pattern with Ali Hazelwood. Of all of the books that I have read, and every single one of them, this is now the 3rd one, the main character is a woman, and she gets into a situation that feels very sexist in some kind of way, or sexist, or fucked up, like just genuinely really fucked up by a man in her life. And then the main love interest comes in and almost like saves the day. It's kind of like the woman needs to be saved by a man vibe, and I don't love it. Like it's like the main character can't stand on her own 2 feet when it comes to like the people in her life, and like she's just letting people walk all over her or like treat her like shit until the man comes into her life and is like, hey, you shouldn't let him treat like you like that. And then it's like, why did it take a man coming in your life for you to realize that? And Bride and Love Hypothesis and now Love on the Brain, I am noticing that in some kind of way. The plots are different, but it's like the blueprint is woman in a sex situation needs to be saved by the love interest, or the love interest has some kind of play into the situation being resolved. And it's just like, let the woman solve it on her own sometimes, you know? If you don't know what this book is about, this is like the second STEM book I believe Ali Hazelwood wrote, and this is following B and Levi. B is a scientist who is forced to work on a project with her nemesis. She works for NIH, and Levi works for NASA, and NIH and NASA are doing this joint partnership where NIH and at NASA are both sending like scientists to like essentially make some kind of neuroengineering project for like astronauts and all that technical stuff. And she is convinced that Levi hates her because they knew each other from grad school, and he doesn't actually hate her. And also, in all the books, she thinks the man hates her. He doesn't. He doesn't hate her. He's always just in love with her. All of them so far. But it's kind of like a rivals to lover. I don't call them enemies to lovers because I don't think romance books can be enemies to lovers. So I prefer to call them rivals to lovers, where she thinks that they hate each other and they're forced to work together. So like forced proximity. And then as they're working together, they start to get feelings for each other. And there's there's like an underlying fucked up situation that's happening because she secretly runs a Twitter account called What Would Marie Curie Do? And no one knows that it's her. And then one day her account is logged into and some very problematic things are shared in her account. And she's essentially getting canceled for it. And then it's like, who could have done that? Who would have hacked her account? Spoiler alert, it was a man. A different man. And then the man that she's with comes in and helps her save the day. And it's just, I'm almost getting bored by it. I think that's why I was like very hesitant to read a bunch of Ali Hazelwood books in the same month, because I feel like you might not notice it when you're reading them farther apart, but when you're reading them almost essentially back to back, you're like noticing patterns. You're like, if it ain't broke, I guess don't fix it. But I'm also like bored. Like I need something new to happen to stimulate me. I just kind of also felt like the main character had like no backbone. And she was kind of annoying at times. And the whole fading thing wasn't really explained. And I wish that it was explained. And yeah, I'm giving this a 3.5. Like, it's not horrible. I didn't hate it. Just not my favorite out of the 3 that I've read so far. Hopefully the next one is even better. It kind of is just like, it's like, I'm just like, whatever, moving on. I do think the smut is getting better in each of these STEM books. I don't know, I'm calling them science. In each STEM book, it's like getting better and better, and it's like less awkward, less immature written. So there is some aspects that I enjoyed, but overall, I kind of was just like, I want to be done with this. And the third book I read since I last checked in was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I have to be very honest about something. I did not know this was written by a man. And I have a thing where I don't enjoy reading books by men. Especially sapphic romances by men. And I was going to listen to this as an audiobook, and as soon as I pressed play on the audiobook and I heard a man speaking in my ears, I immediately got the ick. I understand men write, and that's okay. I just personally don't want a man to write sapphic romances that are going to get read by me. I think sometimes they just don't come off very well. I'm very almost scared of them. I think there's some out there that are great. I don't even want to try most of the time. But since this is already on my list, I was like, well, I'm just going to have to try it. But like, not an audiobook. I could not listen to that man. Like, there was one word that he said that was like moaning, and I was like, no, I can't listen to a man say this. I can't. That's giving me the ick. It's disgusting me. I'm going to end up hating this book. I've tried to listen to it as an audiobook, so I switched to the ebook, and I was able to get through it, but I'm still only giving it a 3.5 just because I'm not a cozy fantasy person. back to the whole ADHD thing, I need to be stimulated with plot and like exciting things happening in the plot and action. And there's not really much action. This is like the bread person making different types of bread and her changing up the coffee and having everyone taste coffee. And it was very domestic and like simplistic. And there's just like when you're writing 300-page books, I need more than that. I need more than that. I also thought there was going to be smut in this. I don't know why. No one ever told me that. I just thought, hey, this is a sapphic book. There's going to be some kind of smut in it. There's not. There's not really any sapphicness really in it. Like, there is at the end, but like for, I want to say like 80% of the book, you don't even know that she's into women. So like maybe that's why I'm fine with the man writing it, but still like I thought this was like a gay ass story. I thought this was like lesbian or like bisexual sex in a coffee shop kind of vibe. But like, you know, because I've read other cozy fantasies that have had sapphic smut. So I think I just had like all the wrong expectations, and I just feel a little disappointed by it. I know there's a series, but I won't be finishing the rest of the series. I don't have any kind of intentions or motivation to finish the rest of the series. So the last two books were, I don't want to say a disappointment. They're just kind of like not for me. Like, these are not for me. If you enjoy these, you enjoy these. If these are your cup of tea, that's also fine. They're just not for me. They're just not for me at all. And then just a few minutes ago, I finished the last Ali Hazelwood book of this video, Love Theoretically, which I'm giving 5 stars. I love this one. I love, love, love this one. This one had so much emotional depth to it. It does still follow the blueprint that I was talking about, but I do feel like the plot and the energy kind of makes up for it. It feels a little bit less like that in this one. But this is following rival physicists who are like colliding in an academic feud because the main character is interviewing for a position that the other character is working at, and she's essentially trying to get this position, and the guy doesn't want her to get the position. And also she's been fake dating his brother for like a year or so, and he thinks that she's a liar because she told him that he was a librarian. She told him that she was a librarian, and then it's now coming out that she's actually a fucking physicist. So they have like another rival's love situation where she's just like not competing against him because he already works for this job, but he has his own candidate that he's trying to get the job. So she's like almost like, I'm gonna ruin you if I don't get this job. And it's really cute. It has a ton of Twilight mentions, and he actually ends up watching Twilight for her. And that sold me on the book. It also made me deeply emotional because she has diabetes and she's not used to anyone caring for her. Like, her family made her think that having diabetes was like a burden growing up, and he's like the first person that wants to actually take care of her. That made me so emotional. Also, Elsie is her name. Elsie makes herself fit to what a person wants. Like, she just crumbles up her whole personality and rearranges it to fit whatever she thinks someone needs from her. And Jack calls her out on the bullshit and is like, hey, be yourself with me. So Jack's actually the first person that like she's actually being herself with, because she just always feels like she's not good enough and that she needs to be the perfect person for them. Not just in relationships, but like friendships and with her family and stuff. And she's been like living like this her entire life, and Jack's helping her like get out of that. And I just felt so emotionally attached to that storyline because I'm autistic, so we call that masking, but I'm also very used to like fitting myself into a scenario to feel like I belong, even though it's not who I really am as a person. So I feel like I saw myself a lot in Elsie, and Jack, even though he's blonde, is hot. Okay. So I think that's a catch up of like all of the books that I read while we were gone. And I do have one last Paris book, and then I have a couple of library books that I wanted to get to. So I have The Last Tiger left to read to complete Mooing with Friends, and then I'm just going to be attaching the other 3 library books to this video, like as my grand overall January wrap up. So it is January 5th. I have 5 days to finish 4 books. I got this, I hope. Okay, it is January 28th, and I am here to talk about The Last Tiger. I actually just finished this book just like about an hour ago. I love this. This was my last Paris book. She had not read this book yet. We got it together with my friend Lauren, and we were all doing a buddy read. I am the first to finish. I think hopefully by the time this video comes out, they'll be also finished with it. If not, skip this part if you haven't finished the book. Um, this was amazing. First of all, can we get a moment of appreciation for the cover? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is stunning. I knew right away that even if I didn't like this book, I was still gonna keep it in some capacity because it's a gorgeous. But thankfully, I did love it, and I went back on forth on what I wanted to give this because it wasn't like quite a 5-star, but I felt like a 4-star was too low for how much I did enjoy it. So I think I'm gonna give it a 4.75. Just the main character a couple of times really fucking annoyed me, and I wanted to grab and shake her, and and I don't even know if she was meant to be actually annoying, and that's why I'm not giving it a 5-star, because sometimes authors write characters to actually be annoying, and that's just good writing, because if they're supposed to annoy me, that's amazing, then you're doing it correctly. I don't think she was meant to be annoying. I just found her very annoying at times, because she was so hard-headed. She wouldn't listen to anyone but herself. She got people injured almost several times. She just needed some shaking, is all I'm going to say. She needed to be shooketh. So I'm not going to give it a 5-star, mostly because one of the main characters. This is based off of a true story that I think was then put into a fantasy setting. I don't know how much of this is true. I might look into that later on, but this is by a Japanese couple, I believe, who were incorporating their grandparents. Are they brothers and sisters, or are they married? Hold on. They are sisters and brothers. They're brothers and sisters. I'm so sorry that I just accused you guys of being married. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, I think it's because I'm so used to when I see two names on the title, I'm so used to them being a couple. I'm so sorry. They are brother and sister, and they are writing the stories of their grandparents based off of true stories from their grandparents from a really dark period in Japanese history, and I think they just make it into like a fantasy setting. I really don't know how much is the fantasy and how much of it is the trueness of it. It's amazing though. It's incredibly nuanced, it's emotional, it's dark. I wouldn't say as dark as the Poppy War, but there was a couple of scenes where I was like, oh, okay, we're just gonna go into detail there. Okay. But I do think that you can kind of expect that anytime that you have a book that's about a war, which this is. This is about, I'll get to that in a second. But that's why I wasn't too surprised about like the graphicness of it occasionally. I think it just surprised me because this was a YA, and I thought like maybe since it was a YA they would hold back on some of the details. No, they didn't. They didn't hold back on some of the details. There's this following two different main characters who are growing up in a colonized land where their land has been taken over by the dragon people. The dragon people have gotten mystical powers from the spirit dragons that allow them to be big and strong, and they have used those powers to pretty much take over the land of the tigers. They are seen as less than, they have a lot of hardships, they can barely even eat. And in this land, tigers are slayed because obviously the tiger people came from the spirits of tigers, and they are want to essentially get rid of all remnants of the tiger people, and they can't just kill the tiger people, so they're just making the tiger people be dragon people. I don't know if that makes sense, but they're essentially being like, if you want to live, you're going to become one of us, and we're going to go out and kill your sacred beings. So like every single one of the tigers has been slayed that we know of. And this is called The Last Tiger, so I feel like the title kind of spoils you it. But there is a tiger that's alive. And the main character spots the tiger and has an interaction with it that kind of changes the whole trajectory of the book. But the two different main characters come from different ways of life. The one main character is very, very poor. his dad works in the mines. He works like 3 jobs to help take care of his brother and his mother. And one of his jobs is that he's a cleaner at the like home of this, I don't want to say royal family, but like prestigious family. And that's where the other main character comes in because she is the daughter of this prestigious family. And they both feel like a lack of freedom for different ways. Like, I don't know how to say their names, so I don't want to fuck it up, but like the one main character who is poor, he's essentially doing anything that he does for his family. Like, he just wants to get his family out of poverty. He wants his family to be able to eat. He wants his family to have a better life. And the other main character who is more wealthy, she just wants to be able to do whatever she wants. Like, she has a good life. Like, she's taken care of, but she wants the freedom to, like, pick who she wants to marry, go out when she wants to go out, travel when she wants to go out, like, travel wherever she wants to travel. So she lacks freedom in a different way, and they both want to find the last tiger for different reasons. And I can't go into the reasons because it would be spoilers. But it is a very emotional, history-heavy book. I loved the lore behind it because at the start of each chapter or like each section, it would like give like a little bit of like a history to it, and I did really, really like that. Okay, here is the author's note, which I did not read. It says, our late grandfather filled our childhood with boundless laughter and sharpness of wits, and with countless colorful anecdotes about our family and ancestors. Above all, his favorite to tell was the story of how he met our grandmother. Before he passed away in April 2020, our grandfather often expressed hope that we would one day share his history. Oh, okay, maybe I should have read the author's note. I'm so sorry. It says, the grandfather expressed that they wanted him to write. This took place in the Korean War and how he found their grandmother again in the 1950s and 1951 and ended up getting married in 1951. And this is like almost like a forbidden story between the two of them. The following story is inspired by many experiences from our grandparents' lives during the Japanese colonial occupation of Korea. At the beginning of each part, we've chosen quotations that are taken directly from written accounts by both of our grandparents. While several elements of last cycle are less inspired by true events, we're obviously taking liberties with many of the details for the sake of storytelling. For example, while Korean tigers truly were hunted down and killed by the Japanese colonial government, magical powers do not exist. Our grandparents' family were not actually collaborators with the Japanese Empire. They actually fought for Korean freedom and independence. This is a story of pain and fear and long-held dreams. Okay, so I understand what's different then. Okay. Maybe I should have read the author's note. Do I be honest with you guys and say that I don't read the author's notes hardly ever or the acknowledgements? And maybe this is a sign that I probably should have because now I have spoken incorrectly 2 different times. First I said they were married, then I was like, I don't know what's real and what's fake, when it clearly tells me right here what's real and what's fake. I'm so sorry. It is very beautiful. It is like a forbidden romance in the book because of the fact that like she's not meant to marry someone who's such a low status she's not meant to marry someone who has such low status of the main character because the main character is a cleaner and she comes from a very prestigious family. So she is meant to go marry someone of higher status so that her family can almost raise themselves in higher status as well and like further implement themselves as like dragon people. So there is a magical academy where you can go to get dragon powers if you pass, and both main characters are wanting to go to the academy for different reasons. Like I was kind of explaining, he's wanting to go get those powers to better his family, and she's going to use those powers to like free herself from the shackles of her family and whatever else she thinks is holding her back. So it's a very interesting story of seeing people do the same actions but like for different intentions. I really love the history of it. I love history. It is very tragic. This has happened in real life. Like, I hate war, but I do really appreciate how factual it seems to be in a lot of ways. Like, I think maybe the only thing that's not true is the magic and like a couple of other things. But it is so sad that tigers actually were hunted. I did not know that. I thought maybe that was the false part, but I did not know that tigers were actually hunted. One of my biggest trigger warnings is animal cruelty, and I saw this was in the book, and I was like, well, I wonder in what capacity. I will say animal cruelty is huge. The tigers are literally slayed in a ceremony, and there's multiple descriptions of like their heads coming off and everything. Like, would be very, very careful about reading this book if animal cruelty is something that really disturbs you. I would say like it's one of the biggest trigger warnings for the entire book. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.75. I just, unfortunately, since I'm calling one of the main characters annoying, that does mean I'm calling their grandma annoying. I'm so sorry. I'm sure your grandma was a very lovely person. I'm sure she was great. I just think that sometimes she needed to be shook a little and tell her to calm the fuck down and stop making such rash decisions that could fucking hurt anyone and everyone. I need to stop talking about this book. So sorry to the authors, Julia and Brad. I hope you have a very lovely relationship as brother and sister. I'm sure your grandparents were awesome. I'm sure they weren't annoying at all, and I'm sure you did a great job of putting factual history in a fantasy setting. And I loved it, and I'm very interested to see what my friends think about it. I am keeping it. It's beautiful. I would love to know what else they might write. If this is a one and done situation for them, or like maybe they might write separately. Because I do think they have a very good writing skills. Like, it wasn't bad. This is like a debut novel for them. So I am curious to see where they go next. Like, will they keep writing stories based off their grandparents? Because I would read them if they did. Like, I don't know necessarily. This is like, it didn't end on like the most cliffhangery, but it did end on like somewhat of a cliffhanger. So I am curious to know if this is going to be turned into a series at some point, and like maybe we get like the next part of the grandparents' story. I would read it. I would definitely read it. Yeah, this is the last Paris book. I am now reading 2 library books to wrap up the month, and I will be back to talk about those in a few days. Hi, it's me. It's actually only been a few hours later. I went ahead and I read How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. It was super short, like only 170 pages, so I went ahead and got it out of the way because my last book of the month is 500 pages. It's a hunkaroonie, okay? It's going to take a lot of effort to get through that one. So this one was really quick. And also, it's not like an actual book like I thought it was. It is like pictures and like really short writing on each page, and I'm giving it 5 stars. I love this. This is a part of the Cruel Prince. This is a part of the Cruel Prince series. If you don't know what the Cruel Prince series is, you should look it up because it's one of the best series of all time, which has Jude and Cardan, who are like probably in my top book couple list ever. Like, definitely like in the second spot, because like obviously Juliet and Aaron Warner from Charlemagne are my number 1. But I love them. I adore them. I think Jude is probably also my favorite female character. A lot of the times, I think her and Ren from the Poppy War kind of hold that spot jointly a lot of the times. But I just love Jude. I'd actually love to do a Cruel Prince cosplay one day. But yeah, the books. This is actually the next installment in it, but it's not like an actual book. It's like a novella. This was finished quite some time ago. I'm just now getting to it 6 years later because, like, I didn't even know really what it was. I didn't even know it was about Cardan. When I read The King of Elfhame, I thought it was about his dad, and I was like, why do I fucking care about his dad? And then I got it from the library because I was like, well, you know, I want to complete the series, so I'll just read it. And as soon as I realized that it was about Cardan, locked in. It is just like little short stories about Cardan throughout life. Like, there's some when he's younger, there's some when he's older, there's some before he met Jude, there's some after he met Jude, but they're not together yet. There's some once they are together, and it's just like really fun. The art in it is beautiful. There's literally an art of Jude and Cardan that I adore. Hold on. It's somewhere. Like, look at them. Look at them! That's the king and queen. I fucking love them. And it's been, you know, I think I read the original series maybe 4 years ago. So it has been quite some time since I dived into this world or like seen these characters. And I love them so much. So I actually really truly enjoyed diving back into it and like getting to read about Cardan, and Jude Crumbs were so lovely. It's just so short and fun, and there's no stakes involved. It's just a bunch of little stories that kind of like get a bigger picture of like who Corden is as a person, and like he's pretty much just like a little wicked little boy, you know? Not boy, wicked man. Like he can play the part of villain and hero very easily. It's just whatever he's in the mood for that day, and I love him no matter what. I support his rights and his wrongs. But yeah, this is my second to last book of the month. I'm giving it 5 stars. It is one of my physical books for the year, and I think it's on my 26 and 26 or something like that. I know it marks off a series for me. So first series of the year, complete. And then my last book of the month is Every Spiral of Fate. It's fucking, it's huge. I'm gonna have to put in the work the next couple of days to get through this one. But yeah, I will be back when I finish that one. It is the last day of the month, and I have finished my final book. I can't believe I actually managed to do it because it was a trek. It was almost 500 pages long. I read most of it today. I really had to hammer it to the nail to get this book done. The last book I was able to complete for January was Every Spiral of Fate. I've talked about this a few times. This is the 4th book in this Woven Kingdom series, which is the same author as Shatter Me. This is like, I think like it is still YA, but I still feel like the characters feel more adult-like than Shatter Me, so I always tell people if they didn't like Shatter Me to maybe give this one a try. And I've had like very mixed feelings about the series, like overall. Like I gave the first one, I want to say like a 3. The second one was a lot faster and I still was really liking it, so I gave it a 4.5. Because like there was just something about it that was missing. The third one I absolutely loved and I gave a 5 star. I even went back and read my review because I read this literally 2 years ago. So, like, I didn't remember a lot of things, which I'll get into in a second, but I did go back and read my review because I was like, how was I feeling in this moment? And I was in love with the series at the time. 2 years ago, me was obsessed with the main characters, was loving where the story was going, and now now me, I kind of feel like it went in a step back for me. It was not a 5 star for me for this one. There could have been a bunch of different factors into this. It could be that it's been 2 years and my interests have changed, or like I didn't do a reread and I maybe should have because I didn't remember all the plots. I didn't remember how I felt about all the characters. Like I did spend like 100 pages almost just like trying to get caught back up with where the story was. And that could have played a factor into my review. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I got it from the library and it's due from the library, so I read it in time to return it to the library. I also just feel like a big part of why I loved book 3 was Cyrus, who is the main character, and I feel like in this book they were so mean to him, like the main characters, other main characters were so mean to him that it almost made me hate everyone but him, which took an impact into the book because then I was like, if someone else was talking that wasn't Cyrus, I was like, shut the fuck up. I don't care what you have to say. Go back to my baby boy. Why are you even speaking? Why are you even existing? Because they were so mean to him. They were so mean to him. And they don't even know him like I know him, okay? He has a whole tortured backstory that they don't even know about fully. And I just could not stand how they were treating him in this book. And I think that kind of lessened my enjoyment overall because, like, I'm just too attached to Cyrus. But I gave it a 4.5. If you don't know what this series is, this is like a series where there was a prophecy told about a queen that would grow up. It's very like, honestly, it's a very basic prophecy story. Let me Google like a good summary for the first one because I'm on the 4th one. It says, I'll just read the story graph description. It says, clashing empires, forbidden romance, and a long-forgotten queen destined to save her people. And this was all supposed to be a trilogy, and it was not. It ended up being 5 fucking books. I don't know what it is with this author who is like, I'm going to write 3 books in a series. And then she ends up always extending it. Always extending it. I just don't believe her anymore. But it's based off of Persian mythology. To all the world, the main character is a disposable servant, not the long-lost heir to an ancient Jinn kingdom forced to hide in plain sight. The Crown Prince Cameron, who just so happens to have the same name as my boyfriend, has heard the prophecies foretelling the death of his king, but he could never have imagined that the servant girl with the strange eyes, the girl he can't put out of his mind, would one day soon uproot his kingdom and the world. So Cameron is the prince, and there's almost like a love triangle. And I've gotten to the point where I can't fucking stand Cameron, which feels a little weird since I am, in fact, dating a Cameron. I can't fucking stand Cameron. I'd be fine if he got shoved off a cliff and died in the next book. Because you get introduced to Cyrus maybe in book 2. Maybe book 2 is where the love triangle part came in. And it's not even a love triangle to me because it's just like, it's Cyrus. It's Cyrus for me. I'm getting to the point where I don't think even anyone even deserves Cyrus. Cyrus should just leave them all behind. It's becoming like a Bella versus Twilight. It's becoming a Bella and who she should have. And I always said Bella should have choose herself. Cyrus should choose himself and book it the fuck out of there. Because at this point, in book 4, by the time we get to book 4, I'm so sick of their shit. I read my review for book 3. And in my book review of book 3, I actually talked about the fact that I don't think Cameron actually loves the main character. I think Cameron likes the idea of the main character and likes what she could do for him, but I don't think he actually likes her for who she is, like, isn't actually in love with her, like, romantically, versus Cyrus, who is, like, down bad on the fucking ground, crawling to her, obsessed and loved with her for who she is, who she could be, who she might ever be. Like, he is so absolutely down for her, and that's why I can't see it as a love triangle, because to me, Cameron does not compete in any kind of way. Do I have a quote from one of the books? Okay, here's a quote from the 3rd book. So not really a spoiler overall, but like just like a random quote. This is from Cyrus. So he longed for her warmth, for her radiance. She had been for him from the first moment she's wandered into his dreams, an enduring flame in the endless night, his only haven in the madness that inhaled him. And in this review, I said I need a book of just Cyrus and the main character, and this book got very close because we do get Cyrus's point of view, and so much of it is Cyrus and the main character, and then there's just Cameron randomly fucking talking. And I'm like, who asked you to speak? Who asked you to speak? Another quote that I really liked from this book, book 4, which I actually ended up putting in my journal entry because I thought it was so good. I always say this once, Angel, for you. I feel you should be warned. No man has ever loved a woman the way that I love you, and I would rather die damned as I am than disgrace us both with the pitiful, unrequited performance of my heart. I love a man who speaks poetry to me, you know? I love him. And I will be reading book 5, specifically for him, in the hopes that he finally gets a good ending. I don't know what else I can say about this other than how much I love Cyrus, but Cyrus has an unfortunate backstory, and I can't say too much because of spoilers, but like, you think that you should hate him, and I'm just telling you that hating him is a rite of passage, but you're going to get to where I am, and you're going to love him, so don't hold too much against him, okay? Please, he deserves the world. There is aspects of this that I think are better than Shatter Me. Like, I do think that the characters are wrote to be a little less annoying than, like, Juliet. And I think the plot is super interesting. There's a political aspect to it. There's dragons. There's magic on top of the dragons. The love triangle, I just throw it out of my head. It doesn't exist. And hopefully book 5 is actually the end of the series, because this author loves to do spin-offs or loves to just continue a series 8 years later. So I really hope that next year when the next book comes out, I can just mark it off as complete and it actually be completed. I'm begging you. I don't know why I keep reading things by this author when she consistently does this. But yes, Every Spoiler Fate was my last book of the month. I am giving it 4.5, and I got it done just in time to take it back to the library. You know how it's funny that I made a Twilight reference? I'm literally wearing a Twilight shirt. You can just see like the top of Edward's head there. But now to the important part, which is the stats. This is a Mooing with Friends episode. I'm sure you've heard that so many times. And I had Paris pick all of her favorite books for me to read, or books that she hadn't read and wanted me to read to see if they were any good. And I ended up reading a total of 14 books. 2 of those were library books, and 2 of those were buddy reads that she hadn't read that I'm forcing her to read with me as buddy reads, so they got put on this month anyways. So I'd say only actually like 11 maybe no, wait, that'd be 10. So 10 were actually from her. Yes. So I read a total of 14. I read 5,355 pages. My average rating was a 4.45, which is a pretty good rating for the first month of the year. And let me walk you through my ratings. So I'm going to walk through my ratings and what I gave each book, because I know I gave like a spill about each one, but just like if you want like a fast-paced like round off of what rating I gave each book, this is for you. So I started the month off with Bride, which I gave a 4-star. And then I quickly followed it up with The Love Hypothesis, which I gave a 4-star as well. And then I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, who I am a hater of. And I ended up giving this book a 5-star, which is still a fucking shock to me. We jumped to a fantasy where I read The Games Gods Play, which I gave a 5-star. We then went to smutty romance when I read The Bull Moon Rising, which I gave a 3.5. And then The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, which I gave a 4.5. We switched gears back to fantasy, which I read Legendborn, which I gave a 5-star. And then we kept that train of thought going when I read A Fragile Enchantment, which I gave 5 stars. And then it kind of went all over the place, because then I read Love on the Brain, which I gave a 3.5. Went to Legends and Lattes, which I gave a 3.5. Then back to the final Ali Hazelwood book of the month, which was Love Theoretically, which I gave a 5-star. And then the last Paris book, which is The Last Tiger, which I gave a 4.75. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what she thinks when she reads this. And then the last 2 books I read were library books, which was the How the King of Elfhame Came to Hate Stories, or whatever the fuck that long-ass title is, which I gave 5 stars. And then the one I literally just got done talking about, Every Spiral of Fate, which I gave a 4.5. So I gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I gave 6 5-stars the first month of the year, which is crazy. And I now must pick a favorite book of the month. And I don't even have to really think about it. It's Legendborn. Like, Legendborn deserves that spot. Like, yeah, People Meet on Vacation gave me a whole mental crisis, and I didn't expect that. But Legendborn was just top to bottom fantastic. I loved it so much. I can see why it's one of Paris' favorite books of all time. I can see why she loves the author so much. I can see why she's so protective of the series. I have not stopped thinking about it. I've talked about it so much with her. I've talked about it so much on like streams. Like, it really just stuck with me, and I definitely will be reading the rest of the series at some point this year. But it definitely, I don't want to say by far is the best book of the month, but I would say like it is by far like my top favorite of the Paris books. And I am so glad that she gave it to me, and that she trusted me to read it and everything. So this was a really, really good month. It was a really great start to Mooing with Friends 2026. Some more random stats is that I did read 2 audiobooks like I was wanting to. I guess listen to 2 audiobooks like I was wanting to. I read a total of 4 physical books this month. And I was able to complete 1 prompt for my 26 and 2026. So I really do think I did a really great job overall for this month. And thank you so much again, Paris, for giving me these recommendations. The next Moving with Pride episode will be in April, which will be my friend Mariah. She's giving me a shorter list. I think it's like 4 books. She already gave it to me. She gave it to me months ago, and I've just been like, I put her in line. And since the list she gave me isn't very long, I am going to do a secret element for my birthday. And it will be a fun time. So you can see the next episode in April. And February, I've already posted my TBR. I can link the video. I did Valentine's Day candy pics my TBR. It was super cute, and I'm really excited to read those books. Thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of these, you can let me know if you enjoyed them. You can let me know if any of these are on your TBR. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!